Thank you, Taylor. I am Jason, and this is part one of The Between. I think I want to start by having everyone introduce themselves. So when I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for us to know about you. I will start though. My name is Jason. I am or I use he, him, and I am the creator of The Between, as well as its parent game, Brindlewood Bay. And I'm the co-creator of the spin-off game for The Between called Ghosts of El Paso. Let's go over to Mads.
Hi, I'm Madeline Colley, Mads for short, she, they, and I really love telling stories with people in collaborative narratives, so tabletop role-playing games, yay! I do have a YouTube channel that has some actual plays on it, and I also have a podcast called Stories from Chaos Edge that will also have more actual plays on it, content as well, and I thank Jason for inviting me to play today.
Thank you. Jed.
Hi, I'm Judd, he, him, and I have a podcast called Daydreaming About Dragons and a blog called Githyanki Diaspora. And so if you want to track me down, you can look at either of those. If you put in the search terms Githyanki Diaspora, you'll probably get to me. If you put in Daydreaming About Dragons, I'm not sure what you're going to get. You might get to the podcast. You might end up somewhere else where people want to 40K with dragons. And so anyway, if that's what you're looking for, great. But if you're looking for my podcast, you won't get there. And I'm excited to play. This is exciting. I haven't gotten to be a player in a game for a while, so excited. Thank you, Jason, for running.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda, she, her. I am kind of just around in the TTRPG community, trying to get into every game I possibly can. I'm in quite a few of Jason's games. I've played lots of games with Mads. This is my first time playing with Judge, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I don't really have anything to pitch other than games are fun, and I'm really happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I'm going to begin with a procedure called CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The purpose of CATS is to establish some basic expectations for what this game is about and for what we're going to be doing during these two sessions. So the concept. The Between is a tabletop role-playing game about a group of mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. These hunters learn about various monstrous threats in the city, and they conduct investigations in order to neutralize those threats. Over time, they become aware of the plans of a criminal mastermind who is pulling the strings behind the scenes. The hunters will eventually be forced to confront this criminal mastermind in order to save Queen and country. The Between is directly inspired by the TV show Penny Dreadful, but also takes inspiration from British horror classics, the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, pulp-era media, things like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and From Hell, stuff like that. The game's mechanics are based on Apocalypse World and my game Brindlewood Bay. You don't need to know anything about those games, though, before playing. The aim. The aim of the characters in this game is to keep London safe by investigating monstrous threats and learning how to stop those threats. Our aim as players is to learn more about these characters' mysterious pasts, as well as to paint a vivid picture of our version of Victorian-era London, which is a responsibility we all share in this game. The aims for the session today are to introduce our characters, learn the basics of how the game works by playing it, and then having a debrief at the end. Tone. The tone of The Between is dark, mysterious, and sensual. A little bit of levity or humor from time to time is okay, but we will always strive to return to that dark, brooding place that the characters exist in. Subject matter. Let me take a big, long, deep breath here. Subject matter: murder, cannibalism, body horror, dark sexual themes, erotic sensuality, threats to animals and children, foul language, blasphemy, witchcraft, and defiling graves and corpses are all things that can come up in this game. We will talk about safety tools in a moment, but just in the interest of setting expectations, you should know that this game deals with dark and intense subject matter. Let's go ahead and talk about safety tools. Now, no game is more important than the people playing it. We're going to paint a dark, unsettling portrait of Victorian-era London, but we're going to do it in a way that respects everyone's boundaries of safety and consent. In order to do that, we'll be using 3 safety tools. The first is the open door policy, which is very straightforward. If you need to go for some reason, you can go. The next is the X card. In the context of this stream, if something happens in the game that makes you uncomfortable in an unfun way, you can say X card or type it in the chat, and I will stop play and address it, see what we need to change. I might ask what is being X carded, but I will never ask why is it being X carded. And finally, we'll be using lines and veils. Lines are things that we are not going to have in the game at all. And then veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them. We're going to be handling lines and veils on our character sheet, our online character sheet. So we're not going to be talking about them on the call so much. But just as an example, I'll say what mine are. My line is going to be sexual violence. That's not going to be a thing that happens in the game. And my veil is torture. I'm okay with torture being a thing that happens in the story. I just prefer not to role play those scenes. So normally in this process, and I should mention for people watching the video who are unfamiliar with the Between, everything I'm doing right now is scripted. So if you want to run the Between, you can do it just like I'm doing it right now because it's all scripted for you. Normally we would create characters, but we've already created characters. So we're going to go straight to character introductions. And so what we're going to do by way of introducing the characters is we're going to go around the table, our virtual table, and everyone is going to introduce their character by name, look, and vice, and that's it. Name, look, and vice. Then we'll go back around again and introduce them again. But before we do that, let's just do name, look, and vice. Just get the real basic stuff about these characters. So we have 3 characters today. The first is the Vessel, Helena Byrne, and that is being played by Mads. Mads, tell us those basic things about Helena Byrne.
Helena Byrne,
Helena,
she has a look with silver hairpins, a bracelet with its zodiac charms, and she's corset trained, and her vice is examining her own blood.
What a fun pastime. Thank you, Helena. Very good. Let's go over to Dr. Penelope Pendleton. Amanda, tell us about Dr. Pendleton, please.
Dr. Pendleton has pale skin, spectacles with yellow smoked lenses, and worn work boots. Her vice is cleansing tonics.
Very good. And finally, let's go over to the factotum, Dryden, who is being played by Judd. Judd, tell us the basics of Dryden.
Yeah, Mr. Dryden has a hip flask with rear admiral boots, cat decoration on it, has moss-colored tweed waistcoat, and wears black leather Wellington boots, and his vice is fine cigars.
Fantastic, thank you. Now we're going to go around again, and I'm going to read aloud the little bit of color text for your playbook. This color text sort of establishes a basic idea about what this playbook is. In the Between, we use playbooks, which means these are sort of character archetypes that are kind of the same across every game of the Between, right? So we'll go over these basics. Everyone else, while I'm reading the color text for that playbook, be paying close attention. And based off everything we know about these characters up to this point, or about that character up to this point, which is not much to be fair, think about what might be found in their personal quarters in your headquarters where the characters are at, which we'll talk about in a bit. Something that might be found, an item, an object, some piece of clothing perhaps, or maybe even something more grand. These things are going to be entered into a part of the character sheet called personal quarters. The personal quarters part of your character sheet is essentially like an equipment list, because if you are able to work the personal quarters item into the description of your action, you get a bonus on your die roll when you do that the first time you do it. And so let's start with the Vessel. Helena Byrne. Helena, for as long as you can remember, dark entities have been near. They lurk just inside your peripheral vision, just at the mirror's edge. When you close your eyes, you can actually feel them. Their cold breath, their oily touch, an occasional feverish embrace. They want to be inside you. They want to rub up against your guts and deposit their power. Others are drawn to you as well. Those who would use you to master these dark things in order to serve their own agenda. Some of these interlopers, these usurpers, can be of use, such as the hunters with whom you share a home. Others, like the Coven, are best avoided. In either case, you are no one's object, tool, or weapon. You are no mere bystander. Your fate is yours to shape. Now, we don't know much about Helena, but just going on instinct, perhaps. What do you suppose is found in Helena's personal quarters? Who has an idea?
I think, is it Helena or Helena?
I keep saying Helena. I'm sorry, it's Helena, right? Okay, it'll take me a minute. Sorry, Helena.
I think Helena has a broken music box that plays. The way it's broken is the tune doesn't play fully.
Mm-hmm.
It's missing some notes.
And Mads, you can ask for revisions or changes to any of these things if you wish. I'm going to say that you have a wooden box with a skeletal left hand in it. I don't know why. Good luck using it in your die roll. Jed, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think maybe an unopened, really tacky tarot deck.
Oh, nice. Like something in Barnes and Noble.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I'd be curious to know more about Mads if you have any ideas, or Judd. Like, what does the tarot depict? Like, what kind of tarot deck is it?
It is a tarot deck of, I think in the Victorian period, they had these photograph cards that had cutouts. And this tarot deck has those kind of cutouts in it.
When you say cutouts, what do you mean by that?
Basically where men who would use parts of their hand to depict what was cut out. So
I don't know if we're gonna...
It's a dirty deck, basically.
Okay, porn. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, am I just being dense? I can't really figure out what...
No, okay, it's okay.
No, I love it. Dirty tarot deck. I'm into it. Yeah, that's great. Fabulous. Okay, great. So let's move on to Dr. Pendleton. Dr. Pendleton. Few understand the mysteries of human anatomy like you do. You are one of the most brilliant medical minds in London and could take your place as a lecturer at any number of esteemed academies. But you have different ideas, different plans. You are no longer interested in merely preserving life, but rather creating it. And so you'll do what you must to survive. Tending to the sex workers dying of consumption, assisting Scotland Yard with grisly forensic inquiry, and creeping about in the dark with these new people, these hunters with whom you share a home. But always you are focused on the new life growing in your secret womb, your child, the one you hope will capture even the faintest reflection of the person you loved and lost. What do we suppose can be found in Dr. Pendleton's quarters or secret womb, which is a lab? So,
and this can be a portable item too, couldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, okay. It could be something bigger or smaller, whatever. Yeah, as long as it's interesting, right?
I'm thinking that she has what looks like a large medical bag, but inside there's a secret roll of, like a leather roll of, well, tools that she can use to get parts.
Oh, I see.
And it's just rolled up inside this bag.
Gnarly body and bone cutting tools.
Yep.
I'm going to say this is my favorite, and I don't know who I owe this to because I use it in every game now, but I didn't invent it. You have a flesh terrarium.
I knew you were going to say that.
She doesn't say flesh terrarium. You have a flesh terrarium. Judd, what do you think?
I'm trying to figure out what a flesh terrarium is.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole point.
Stunned.
It has no immediate
I
meaning.
I love it. I was thinking of a scrapbook with different articles in it from newspapers all over London, and I mean, someone might be able to put together a theme or what it is, but it's, I think it might seem random, but what the, what it is, the pattern that you're looking for in there.
I like it. You can give it meaning whenever you use it. Fantastic. And finally, let's go to the factotum. Now, we should mention here that the factotum playbook has an employer, and we've decided that your employer is Dr. Pendleton, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So with that in mind, Dryden, you had a life before you entered the service of Dr. Pendleton, but the details of that life are unimportant. All that matters now is the person you serve and Hargrave House, where you will grow ancient and die if you're lucky. More likely, Dr. Pendleton's colleagues, these hunters, will be the end of you, overturning things that should remain hidden and goading on terrors that dwell in dark places. You'll do your best to help them all, of course, to keep them alive, because without them, what are you, really? Dryden. Who has an idea?
I think, and I gave this to my factotum when I played the mother, you have a mysterious wooden box the size of a shoebox, bread box, and has a lock on it, and only you know what's inside.
Ooh, locked box. I like it. Yeah, so just add that to your personal quarters. Mm-hmm. Amanda, do you have an idea?
Yeah. Dryden, you also have a small potion bottle, like an apothecary bottle, and inside of it is a liquid that takes stains out, like blood stains. Victorian Tide stick, basically.
Everyone else got like flesh terrariums and hands in boxes and porn tarot, and you got some like Windex or. I'm gonna say, since we know that you like cigars, I'm gonna say that you have one incredibly rare cigar. Just a single one. I think it's a cigar that belonged to. Well, I think you make up all kinds of stories about it, but it's this like exceptional cigar, right? Or you have two, so you can share it. You got two of these cigars.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's even better. That's great.
I like the idea of like you change the story all the time whenever you mention this cigar. Fabulous. Characters introduced. So, okay. Now, normally if we were playing in person, we would take a little break, but since we're doing the stream and we haven't had that much time yet, we'll keep going. So, I want to tell you all that even though this is a game that is set in a historical time period, we aren't going to dwell on historical accuracy. We'll do our best to represent the technology and culture of the era, but we're going to get some things wrong every now and then, and that's okay. I'd also like to point out that during this time period, people with marginalized identities would be likely would have been very treated very poorly in society. We're going to ignore that part of history as a general matter. In the world of the between, things like race, nationality, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, disability, and neurodivergence are not a social barrier. So, are there any questions before we begin? We're ready to go. All right, then. Now, here I'll remind you, we went kind of out of order, so I didn't get to read it. But I will tell you that one other thing before we begin. You all know this already, but just for people watching the stream, you are not to speak of your character's backstory or past, either in character or out of character, until prompted to do so by the game's rules. That's a really important part of this game, because in this game, we reveal your backstory at dramatically impactful moments, right? The best thing I can compare it to is like a TV show. So if you're watching like a long form TV show, especially like a prestige drama or something, right? Characters' backstories are not dumped on you, right? Like you don't learn it all at once. You learn it over the course of time. And that's how this game goes as well. So I would just ask you all to refrain from talking about your past until the rules say to do so. So let's go ahead and begin. Hargrave House is an old Gothic Revival style building. It stands out from its neighbors on Belgrave Square, which are done in a more conventional classical style. Hargrave House is also different because it's not just a residence, but a place of work. Dark work. And some more of that dark work has just landed on the doorstep. Now, the Between has phases of play: day, dusk, night, and dawn. And we start in the day. And the first thing that we do in the day phase is I introduce a threat, which is what you're going to be investigating and trying to resolve. Our threat for this little two-shot is called the Limehouse Lurker. Jenny Johnston, the proprietor of an opium den in Limehouse, tells you a story that has not yet reached Scotland Yard or the papers. 3 people have been found dead in recent days, the bodies completely exsanguinated. The first was a male sex worker called Soft Jimmy. He was found in a dark corner of the opium den. The second was a young mother, Charla Bell, found in an alleyway behind the Limehouse School. And the third was a Chinese sailor, Xiao Donghai, found outside a pub near the Regent's Canal dock. The pub is called the Dog and Whistle. Now, Jenny, an informal community leader in Limehouse, has been keeping the bodies in her basement. She's hesitant to go to the authorities because she fears it will cause trouble for the small but thriving Chinese immigrant community in the district, of which she is a member. She heard that Hargrave House has experience with matters such as this and has asked for your help. Here I would like to ask, who among you has the highest reason score? I'm guessing it's Dr. Pendleton, but she is the most brilliant medical mind in London, after all.
Yes, it's Dr. Pendleton.
It is Dr. Pendleton. Dr. Pendleton. Hargrave House knows about creatures that drink the blood of their victims. They're called vampires. This is not a mystery to Hargrave House. But a detail in Jenny's story convinces you this particular vampire has the body of a small child. What is it?
The bruises and lacerations that appear around the wound, the puncture wounds that are created by hands gripping the victim and the fingernails digging in, they're very small.
Are they also lower down?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine that not all victims, maybe one was sitting down, but
Yeah, true. Yeah,
they're definitely not high up.
But Small hands seems
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, good. So the vampire, based off this detail, is physically a child, but that does not mean it's young. Vampires, of course, never physically age beyond how old they were when they were turned into a vampire. And an old vampire has to be handled in a very different way from a young vampire. And so in this game, the investigations are organized around what are called questions and opportunities. And the first question that you have to answer is the vampire young or old? It has a complexity of 4, which we'll get to later, but that's just to reflect its difficulty, and that's about mid. And the opportunity that unlocks is really all that happens is it unlocks the next question, because basically you're going to answer this question about whether it's young or old, and depending on what the answer is, it affects what the next question is. I will also tell you that this game has a mechanic called the Janus Mask, and we'll get into the Janus Mask a little bit more later. You all have access to this tool called the Janus Mask, which is a sort of meta mechanic that allows you to elide bad die results in exchange for telling us something about your character. And you all have access to the aspects of the Janus Mask called the Mask of the Past and the Mask of the Future. This threat also introduces another aspect of the masks called the Mask of the Sun, which is available to be taken by one character once. The Mask of the Sun, if you wish to invoke it, we'll talk about what it does then. And so the next thing that we do in the day phase after the threat is introduced is we just begin normal scenes. The day phase is the primary play phase of the game. It takes up most of the session, and it is meant to be, languid is not quite the right word, but it's meant to be, it's at a pace that you control. I follow you all around. I focus on what you want to do. And so if you want to go investigate a certain way, we'll go do that. If you want to go talk to a certain person, we'll go do that. I follow your lead in the day, and it's not as dangerous. Nighttime is a little different. I like to say that the day belongs to you, but the night belongs to me. The day belongs to you, though. So in the beginning of the game, there's not too much to do except to just begin the investigation. In future sessions, you'll have opportunities or incentives, especially, to sort of have like very personal, intimate scenes with other characters, because you'll need to do that in order to clear negative conditions. But for now, the main thing is just to sort of do your investigations. Also, I'll point out you have a part of the character sheet called Dawn Questions. You'll need to select some Dawn questions, and because there are 2 that you have to pick, you'll want to pick things that you think you can role play, because that's how you get your experience points. So, and you can also frame up day phase scenes in order to try to angle for those Dawn questions to be answered affirmatively. And so, as a reminder, your leads, you know where the bodies are. They're all in Jenny Johnston's basement. You know where the bodies were found. One at a pub, one behind the Limehouse School, and one actually in the opium den. And so I will start with Dr. Pendleton. What would you like to do today?
I would like to go look at the bodies.
Okay. So heading over to the opium den.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Helena.
I think I'd like to, check out the pub where one of the bodies was found near. Yeah.
And that's what the sailor was, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Dryden, what are your thoughts?
I had a different thought. It did not necessarily having to do with the case, just getting
That's okay.
an unspeakable stain out of Dr. Pendleton's shawl that has been vexing me for days now. I think like since the case started, the shawl got a blood stain on it, and it's just been me versus this stain locked in combat.
Why don't we have a scene with the 2 of you then? I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
You're the employer, Dr. Pendleton. Where is this scene taking place between you and Dryden and the shawl?
I imagine Dr. Pendleton has a set of rooms at Hargrave House where, her non-secret lab stuff is kept. So probably in those rooms, yes. I
So
think
what do we see you doing, Dryden?
Yeah, I think the shawl is like hung up on a different hook than like away from the other coats. And like I've got that bottle on a shelf nearby and a rag from the kitchen and I think and then like I put another rag under the shawl and I'm just like rubbing on it furiously and I think my face is red and yeah, I just look I'm I look irate. Yeah.
Dryden, have you not got
Yep.
that stain out yet?
No, doctor. I'm
My goodness,
I'm
man.
working on it.
Generally speaking, you're much better at fighting these sorts of things.
Yes, I've laundered your extra shawl so you won't be cold when you go to look into the case.
Yes, well, still, this shawl is my favorite shawl. This is my lucky shawl.
I understand. I will do everything I can to help you deal with the disappointment as I fight this stain, doctor.
Dryden, I'm not disappointed. I'm mad. There's a difference. Goodness. Well,
Of course.
I have some things to look into for the house. I expect, when I get back, that this shawl looks spick and span just like it did when I first got it.
You don't want company where you're going?
I believe that you have better battles to fight here. And she gestures towards the shawl that's clearly important to her for some reason.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nevertheless, Dryden, you can go out and
Yeah.
investigate
No.
as you wish.
I will totally follow Amanda's lead, and I like the idea of dealing with the shawl, and I think there's plenty of things I could unearth through that too. So it's fine with me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just gonna be at Hargrave House for a bit then.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep. I also have a move that allows me to like show up
Places. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So if something goes really wrong, we'll
like
figure it out. Cool.
Why don't we start with? Why don't we actually start with, or continue with, I should say, with Miss Byrne at the Dog and Whistle. Now, I will tell you, Miss Byrne, the sun today is extra warm. It is practically throbbing. And the shawl might... Dr. Pendleton may not need her shawl after all, right? But it is a very, very hot day. And you're in Limehouse, which is... It's in East London. It's a grittier, rougher neighborhood, right? And so it's just heat, and the heat is making the stink from the Thames even more pronounced. You arrive at the Dog and Whistle, and let me find that on here. Do you go right inside, or do you like investigate outside, or what do you do once you arrive?
Please remind me, was the body found in or outside?
I don't know if that's clear, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, she's going to look around the Dog and Whistle first, kind of like get an idea of like, the environs.
Okay. You can do the information move if you want.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
let's talk about the moves. So this is the first move that's firing off. It's called the information move. When you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information, describe how you're doing so and roll with an appropriate ability. So are you just taking a look, or are you doing anything else in particular?
I'd actually like to do a right at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know whether I just do a straight information move and then do the right, or
I mean, I think it depends on what you... Yeah, I mean, so you have a move called Rites of Salt and Smoke, which says you are skilled at contacting dark entities in order to perform magical rituals.
Yeah.
What kind of offerings do you give to these dark entities in order to get their power?
So what she has is at her belt is like an herb bag kind of thing, and so she'll take out some of these herbs and the salt. She'll put them in her palm, and then she'll take out one of her silver hair clips and stab her palm to have some blood welling up. And then she'll rub her palms together with the herbs and the salt. And then she will light the concoction so it smokes.
In your palm. Okay.
In my palm. Yeah.
I love it. When you give these offerings to the dark entities that are always lingering in your peripheral vision, roll with sensitivity, please.
Okay. Okay. 9 plus 2 is 11.
11. On a 10 plus, the magic works without further cost. Choose your effect. You have a list of effects there.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Observe another place or time.
Okay, good. So then that'll give you the ability to look in ways and places and times even that others can't. And that will then, your information moves will flow from that.
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a moment. I am curious just what the magic feels like, though. Like, how do you know the entities are helping you see? Like, how do you know what does it look like on the TV version of our game?
So once she lights her palm with the herb mixture and the blood, the smoke that emanates from it is not just regular smoke with the herb smell. It starts to actually call in some dark forms that start to swirl around it. And then the smell is of not brimstone, but kind of like this acrid electric smell. And it's like, again, she can see it. Like, she can see along the edges of her vision. And then, like, everybody else can pretty much see the smoke being of an unnatural color.
Intriguing. We'll come back to the scene in a moment. Dr. Pendleton, you were heading to Jenny Johnston's opium den. Now, this opium den is sort of reached via a side entrance between in an alley between two very tall buildings, very narrow kind of gap between these buildings. Inside, it is dim and smoky. There is a very heavy ammonia-like smell because that's what opium smells like when it's burning. And you see people sort of lounging about on cushions. Even this time of day, it is there's always people at Jenny Johnston's. Let's do what's called Paint the Scene. Paint the Scene is a part of the game whereby whenever you enter into certain locations, I ask a question to the entire group and everyone answers that question. And in answering that question, usually it's a question related to theme or idea, you are sort of telling us something about that space. And so our Paint the Scene question for Jenny Johnston's Opium Den. People from all walks of life patronize Jenny Johnston's. Everyone, what do we see that indicates this?
I think on the various cushions on the floor. I mean, there's, of course, little groups or maybe duos, grouped around each pipe that's provided. And then you will see someone in rags, no shoes, just like, feet and hands wrapped, sharing a pipe with somebody that might be in brocades and silks. And then in another one, it may be somebody who looks like they're wearing the latest fashion, but then also sharing a pipe with somebody that looks like they just came home from like the docks.
I think there's a section near the entrance that acts sort of like a coat check or weapons check, and you can see the various styles of coats come from every walk of life. You got really shabby, threadbare coats that are patched over and over again, and coats that look like they were store-bought, coats that look like they were handmade or handed down for generations, all hanging next to each other.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I imagine a moment where someone new to this objects and wants there to be like, seating along class lines. And so they're like, you need to go seat somewhere else. And someone who is more veteran at these types of places and this addiction lets them know, like, no, we all sit together here. Like this, that's not how this works. And person sits down and takes up the pipe. Yeah.
I love it. Dr. Pendleton, when you step in, you see all of this. And the last little detail that Judd gave us is particularly interesting because something that stands out precisely because it's separate from everyone else is you notice there is a single sort of like cubicle in this space. And everyone clearly seems to be giving that cubicle a bit of room, right? And you can see that one of the employees, who are just members of Jenny Johnston's family, you notice already they frequently like check in on that cubicle. Somebody important is there. Jenny Johnston, though, comes right up to you. She is, she was at the house earlier, so she knows who you are. She has a very soothing disposition. You'll recall that from your meeting with her earlier today. She's very pretty, but it's a faded sort of beauty. She's a little older, and she's wearing a dark taffeta gown. And she comes up to you and she says, Dr. Pendleton, thank you so much for looking into that small matter I brought to Hargrave House earlier.
Dr. Pendleton kind of sniffs, not really in displeasure at the smell of the air, just in this is a very strong smell, and pushes her glasses up her nose. Well, I suppose somebody has to come and look at these, items that you have in your basement. She's trying to say it very quietly, and she is not successful.
She says, yes, that special cargo we've just managed to store down there. Please follow me. And she will take you. As you're being led across the room, you will walk past that cubicle, and you will see that the person in the cubicle is a man wearing a beautiful gold brocade dressing gown, and he's wearing on his face a mask in the shape of the sun with just a little hole for him to put the opium pipe in.
Is anybody else in this place wearing a mask?
No, he's the only one.
An anomaly. Dr.
Indeed.
Pendleton likes anomalies. Those are always of some sort of statistical interest.
Jenny says, please, this way, doctor. She takes you down a side hall and takes you down into the basement. Let's check in on Dryden. Dryden, well, Hargrave House is a wealth of knowledge in itself, right? Library, there's so many rooms, so there's so much history here. The house has been here for ages. The only current residents right now are Ms. Byrne and Dr. Pendleton. You don't count as a resident, you're an employee. But you're the only three people in the house currently. You kind of have the run of the place. And there is a mystery to be solved here about this allegedly young vampire. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I am looking at journals. I'm doing it. The excuse I'm using is that I need to get this stain out. And so when Hargrave House hunters, when hunters from Hargrave House had fought vampires before, they must have gotten blood on them. And there was someone who was in my position who must have gotten stains out.
Yeah.
And so I use that as my excuse because I think I'm too humble to be like, oh, I'm actually doing research to help with the case, right?
Yeah, I like
so
it,
like
yeah.
that is what I'm that is how I like frame it. And I'm like looking at old journals of Hargrave House clashes with vampires and trying to like put something together.
I love it. Make a information move, which I read earlier. Do it with reason, because reason is when the ability you use when you're using basically your mental faculty.
Got it. This one's a little cocked. Hold on, let me. So I got a 7.
7. On a 7 to 9, according to the rule that I need to look at, even though I wrote it, there's a complication, either with the clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. I'll tell you what the complication is in a bit.
Cool.
But I'll tell you what the clue is now, though. Well, let me find the clue and then I'll decide. Looking through these journals. Looking through the journals, previous hunters in Hargrave House made connections between the vampires in London and the time when England was a colony of ancient Rome. This sticks out. So basically, they found vampires in like old buried temples in London, right? Roman things, old Roman baths, that kind of thing. The clue is you're remembering something that Jenny Johnston told you. Jenny Johnston mentioned that Soft Jimmy, one of the victims, he was found underneath what appeared to be a drawing on the wall of a Roman phalanx. Now, she gets all kinds of artistic types, and so it didn't stand out to her at the time.
Right.
But maybe there's a connection. But that's your clue, the drawing of the Roman phalanx. A bit of a complication.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the complication. We'll cut over to, I know what I wanted to do, but I'm going to wait a minute.
Awesome.
Ms. Burton, with this new site, where and how are you looking?
It's almost like she's using the smoke, like almost as a field of vision. So she's kind of looking through the smoke as she's drawing it across the alleyway, around and beside the dog and whistle, as if to try to sense like where something had happened, to see what has happened.
I like it. That's interesting. It's an information move. I think it might be with vitality, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the best stat. Ooh, let's see. Okay, so that is a 7.
7. Okay. Same thing for you. Clue with complication.
Mm-hmm.
You are intriguing. You're able to pick up on where the body was found pretty easily. There is even still, it's probably been a day or two, but even still, there is this lingering metallic tang of blood, right? And that's actually the clue. It was kind of a messy kill. And for the players, there's a tab on the character keeper called Threats, which is where all the clues and things are being tracked, and all the information about the threat.
Awesome.
So you can follow along there if you wish. And let's check in with, well, actually, once you figure that out, what do you do then? Do you go inside the dog and whistle, or?
Yeah, definitely going to go into, check out the place and see if anybody knows. I think it was like Jia Donghai. I think it was the
Jia Donghai, yeah, I was the victim. Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about the dog and whistle then. So when you go inside, it's everything has like sort of dull brass fixtures. There's a stack of tin mugs on a bar. There's a very prominent painting of a dog, but interestingly, no whistle as far as you can tell. Let's paint the scene. Folks, this pub caters to sailors and folk who work at the canal. Looking around, how do you know?
Oh, the constant smell and like puddles of damp, like that briny smell.
It's very loud and there is a lot of cursing, but it's a lot of sailor slang.
Yeah, I think there are also things on the walls that sailors bring as like gifts to like hang here from all over the world. That is unusual for a house like this.
Nice. We'll come back to the scene in a moment. Dr. Pendleton, you are led down to the basement. Jenny has a little lantern that she leaves with you. Or she's got two, one for you, one for her to take back. And you see the unmistakable shape of bodies wrapped inside a tarp, something you're very familiar with. She says, "Once again, thank you, Dr. Pendleton. I do want to impress upon you the need for discretion in this matter. I hope very much that Hargrave House is able to determine what sort of entity might have done this, and perhaps will not go to the police or do anything else that might cause undue disturbance."
Miss Johnson, I hope you don't assume that I, just because I'm a woman of science, would immediately be going to the authorities. That is quite
You are
not
a
what
woman
we
of
do.
science, yes, but I am a woman who does her homework, and I know that you have assisted Scotland Yard from time to time, particularly when it comes to dragging bodies out of the Thames, something of a pastime of yours, I gather.
Oh, goodness, everyone has to have a hobby.
Yes, well, your professional and personal interests in the macabre intersect in an uncomfortable way with the activities of Scotland Yard, and I would hope that I wouldn't want to stir anything up, you know.
Well, I suppose we have each other's backs then.
Yes, indeed. I will be upstairs. Do you partake of the poppy yourself?
Oh, none for me. But if you wouldn't mind putting a little pinch, and she's going to pull out a little bottle of a little marked tonic, and it's marked in code, so Jenny can't read what it is. If you wouldn't mind putting a little pinch in here for me, just for something later, just a little experiment.
She says, "Woman of science." And she takes it and she goes upstairs and leaves you with the bodies. What do you do?
Whichever body is closest, that tarp is coming right off. I want to take a look at these bodies.
Let's go with Soft Jimmy then. He's probably on top. He's probably the lightest, even lighter than Charla. He's a twink, we'll say. What do you do?
Well, Dr. Pendleton looks down at Soft Jimmy's body. It's probably not looking splendid since it's been a
Right.
little while, and it was probably a pretty gross death. She leans over and puts her face right in front of his, very, very close, and takes a big, deep breath in, getting a smell of this body, and then moves her head back slightly and grasps his face with hers, or with her hands, and she says, "Oh, how unfortunate for someone so pretty. If I had
Indeed.
my work finished. Well, that's neither here nor there, I suppose." And I think she's going to take a really solid look at the wound, the puncture wound, and I would like to use my beneath the skin move.
Oh, yes. You have a move called Beneath the Skin. When you examine a corpse, you may ask me 2 of 3 questions. Which 2 do you want to ask?
What would an untrained eye overlook here?
And it says I will answer with a clue, so I will do that. An untrained eye. Intriguing. Give me just a moment. An untrained eye might think that inside the puncture wound, what appears to be a white bit of matter is some sort of discharge or pus But it's not. It's too dry. It's too silky looking. Indeed, if you tug at it, which I assume you will pull out a very, very tightly wrapped gardenia. It unfurls out of the wound. The killer took the time to do this strange little ritual of leaving a flower in the wound.
What a wonderful little trick. And I think she's going to put the little flower in one of her many jars that she has in her bag.
But that is your clue. And you get one more question.
Second question is, can I take a body part for the child without anyone noticing?
Yes, so here we will talk about the child a little bit, since people who don't know the Between may not realize. You have a move called the child. In summary, what it is you're making a person in your secret lab, and you need body parts for said person. And so to answer your question, which is, can you take a body part for the child without anyone noticing? The answer is yes. You're the only one down in the basement. Do you want to?
Oh, I definitely want to take a body part.
What are you going to take?
I think Soft Jimmy, despite having been dead for as long as he has, he's got very beautiful eyes.
I love it. Now, the move says, when you acquire a body part for the child, you narrate a brief, pleasant memory of the person you lost that is triggered by holding that part in your hands. So after you've used your tools to pop Soft Jimmy's eyeballs out and snip the little tendon that holds it into his skull, and you're holding the eyes in your hand, what pleasant memory does that invoke of the person you loved and lost?
Dr. Pendleton is holding these eyeballs in her hands, and she's sort of fingering the optic nerve and just looking almost through them, thinking about her wonderful memories. And she's thinking about eyeballs, strangely enough. Her lost love, she's thinking about how her lost love had beautiful eyes, just like Jimmy's almost, and always wore these wire-rimmed glasses that had the two different toned lenses, the bifocals, and how when her love would look down at her through those glasses, it would enlarge her eyes and make her look even more like a beautiful owl than she normally did.
How poetic, Dr. Pendleton. Thank you. As you tuck away these eyes that you got by defiling this poor young man's body. Dryden.
Mm-hmm.
This journal used to belong to a hunter from long ago, actually, probably Hargrave House has been here a long time. This is probably like 50 or 60 years ago. The name of the hunter, who you know nothing about other than their name, is Aurelius Drybach. And you're flipping around. Always go to the last page of a journal, right? That's what we know from genre TV. Some writing that doesn't match the writing in the journal begins appearing on a page. It says, Aurelius, ? Is that you? ? How? ? Please take a condition called the journal. You'll note this on your character sheet near the top, the conditions. Just put the journal. And I'm curious what you do.
Yeah, I think Dryden knows where the ink pot and the pen is only because he gives it to other people to write, right? He's not used to being the one who writes. So he looks carefully at Aurelius's handwriting and realizes that he's gonna have to fake it if he wants to get this person to believe it. And yeah, I think he dips the pen in and says, I have my ways. How are you doing?
I think we're going to do the day move here.
Yeah.
The day move says, when you do something risky or face something you fear, this is arguably both, depending on how you feel, name what you're afraid will happen if you fail. Basically, if you fail to convince this person that you're Aurelius Trimarch, like, what are your afraid is going to happen?
I'm afraid I'm going to get Dr. Pendleton and Ms. Byrne into danger, is what I'm afraid of.
I love that. Now, I think the ability is composure here because it's like nerves, Cool. So roll with composure and let's see how you do. And I think because of the condition, I'm going to put you at disadvantage as well. So roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest.
Ooh.
You can counteract that if you can work in one of your personal quarters items somehow. I don't know if you can, but if you can, you can take away the disadvantage.
No, I'll eat the disadvantage for right now.
Go for it.
Fine. Yeah. So I take the 2 lowest.
Yeah, add the 2 lowest.
Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a 6.
That's with your composure.
Yeah, that's with a +1. Yeah, I rolled a 5, +1 is 6.
You can decide whether you want to let this stand. In this game, you can do this thing called the Janus Mask, which lets you bump up the result. But first, you get to hear what the actual fictional outcome is.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take over the fiction for a bit. And the way this is going is you don't realize it, but whoever's on the other end of this journal is pumping you for information.
Right.
And you inadvertently reveal that Dr. Pendleton is in Limehouse. Indeed, Dr. Pendleton is at the opium den. And I think the reason why you reveal the way you go about revealing this, if anybody has any ideas, I'd love to hear it. But my thinking is basically they're kind of like, it's almost like you get the impression that whoever this person is, this was a romantic connection. And they're trying to like suss out, they're kind of saying where they are, and they mention Limehouse just because that's where they must be. And you say something about like, oh yes, I actually have some business there. And then they kind of keep probing, and you just give up too much information about it.
Yeah.
This person's clearly trying to figure out something about Hargrave House. Now, I don't know if Dryden figures it out or not, but you as a player can decide whether you want that to stand. You can mark the Janus Mask in order to bump your result up to a 7 to 9, in which case this won't happen. But if you like it, you can let it roll. So,
I will. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to make life more unsafe for the people I serve. So I will. I will do the Janus Mask to bump it up.
So take a look. You have 2 sections on your sheet. One's called the Mask of the Past, and one's called the Mask of the Future. If you choose the Mask of the Past, you have to mark the very first thing. If you choose Mask of the Future, you can choose any of them. You can also mark the freebie called the Mask of the Sun, which is part of this thread. So, but that can only be taken once.
Right.
And you don't have to do the thing yet, but just for now, just mark it. You can narrate the stuff later. But
got it. Oh, there are so many good choices. Cool. I like the Cosmic Passage. Increase your sensitivity by 1 and reduce your reason by 2.
Go for it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
You can go ahead and do that. And instead, your day move is now 7 to 9. I have to tell you, per the move, I have to tell you how your actions right now would leave you vulnerable. And if you choose to go through with it, in other words, you keep communicating with this entity, whatever it is, whoever
Yeah.
it is, then this vulnerability will happen. But basically, the way you're vulnerable is this person is going to find you tonight. If you're okay with
Yeah.
that.
I am totally okay with that. That's awesome.
Very good. I think at this point, Taylor, if you're watching, I think we're going to take a 5-minute break here. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back in 5 and continue this morbid tale. Okay, we are back. Let's continue the day phase. So we just got a bit of strange communication with someone on the other side of a magic journal or something. It's unclear what's going on here. But in any case, let's kick over to, let's actually go over back to the Dog and Whistle. So Ms. Byrne, you're there at the Dog and Whistle. We've talked about how this is a, kind of a rough and tumble sailor joint, right? And dock worker joint. In the day, I would say it's probably not super busy. There is a barman. There is probably one table with some sailors sitting at it, kind of having a drink. And then there's an old woman kind of in one corner with a sort of scratchy looking gray blanket wrapped around her, nursing a mug. What do you do?
Well, I do the polite thing and then order, well, whatever they got. And then look
Ale.
over, yeah, then look over at the old woman and just kind of consider it. She's gonna buy an extra mug.
Yeah,
and then,
everyone. Yeah.
and then she's gonna go over to bring it to the old woman at the window. Is that what
Yeah,
she's-
she's got a corner table. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone is looking at you. You stand out, right? Based off what we know about your appearance and the fact that you're not the type of clientele of this bar normally, but no one's like hostile or anything like that. This woman, she has very unkempt gray hair. She is wrapped in this blanket. She's kind of just finishing her drink, so you are right on time. What do you do?
Yeah, Helena will go over with both mugs in hand and kind of just sidle into the seat across from her at her little table and says, "You look like you could use a refresher, hun." And then she hands over the mug.
She's like, "Well, look at you. Yes. An angel in black, come bearing gifts from heaven. They are well received, ma'am. Too bad about the cold in here. Ugh.
Yes, it might be a little bit drafty, isn't it?
It's always so damn cold in here. I keep begging Rory to fix the seals on those damn windows. Ugh.
Well, have a little bit of this, hun, and then you probably get a little bit warmed up.
It's the reason why I have to drink it all. I'm not normally the type, but if I don't drink it, I'll freeze to death. It's the only thing keeping me warm.
While you drink, could you tell me a little bit about what happened the other night? The sailor. He came to a bit of a messy end, didn't he?
We'll see what she knows. Make the information move with presence because of the way you have charmed her with the beer.
Okay.
Do you have any conditions right now? I don't think you do.
Did I?
I don't know if you do. No.
I don't think I do. No. Okay.
No, you don't.
Presence, right? Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, a 6.
6. How is this going to go?
Oh, gosh.
She looks up at you and she says, "Ma'am, lots of us are going to come to an end one way or another, bloody or not. At least those of us that meet a bloody end at least get a memorable end. Looking at you, I would say you're going to have a bit of your own bloody end, and maybe soon. I have something of an intuition about this sort of thing. When you watch people like I do long enough, you figure these things out. You suss them out. I think I've sussed you out, madam. You've got a pall hanging over you. No. A shroud hanging over you. At the edges, dark, unpleasant. But I think you know that already, don't you? How do you feel right now as she's telling you this? Oh, we can't hear you, Mads. You're on mute.
Sorry. Fatalistic. Yeah. Helena
Interesting.
knows, but, didn't really want to have it verbalized.
Take the condition fatalistic. I'm not done with you yet either.
Okay. I mean, well, could I use a mask? Could I invoke a mask?
Fatalistic is happening no matter what.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. Rest. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
She says, could I ask your opinion about something?
Certainly, love.
I have a bit of a pain in my stomach. Something right here on the inside. Would you mind? Well, you look like the educated sort. Would you mind taking a look?
I'm no doctor, but I can try if you'd like.
You're in a fairly cloistered corner, so it's okay, and there's not many people in there anyway. And she sort of lifts her shirt a little bit, and you see her sort of like wrinkled flesh. And then you see what she's talking about. There are little fingers pressing from the inside of her stomach. You can see the impressions of the little fingers. She says, and she looks at you with a smile. She says, what do you suppose that is? Hmm?
A wee bit of a problem.
A bit. Yes, a bit. Oh, look. Oh, I think it's getting a little worse. The hand is pressing through the skin. The skin is tearing. The fingers are pressing through. She says, oh, don't see that every day, do you, madam? You can tell that the entities are having a grand joke at your expense right now.
Absolutely.
Ms. Byrne.
I can almost hear like the laughing like behind the back of my head. Sure.
Absolutely. And then she tears open, and there are a pair of hands from the inside of her, and there's a single eye looking at you as if whatever it is looking at you through a little window in her body. And she dies right there. Are you okay with this? Or do you want to mark the Janus mask?
This is from my 6, right?
Fatalistic is not, that's the complication if you bump it up, regardless. So.
That's fine. I mean, I can keep fatalistic, but I mean, I would like to use a Janus mask to like not let that happen.
Make your choice, past or future. We'll talk about it later.
Absolutely.
And what happens instead is that did not happen. It's like choose your own adventure. We rewind, and instead she gives her little speech about death. You take fatalistic.
Yeah.
And then she says, I might know something about what happened to that sailor. We'll cut away from this for a bit. Dr. Pendleton, having freshly plucked the eyeballs from Soft Jimmy and learned a little bit about what happened, are you still investigating the bodies, or are you done here?
Oh, I'll take a look at the other bodies. Gotta have some sort of inspection.
I think that's going on. Everything is sort of like as you would expect it to be. It's sort of how, as Jenny described it. You do find the flowers in the puncture wounds. That is a strange detail that someone, maybe Jenny, maybe the vampire, it's unclear, has done this. And that's kind of when Jenny kind of comes back down and she says, well, Dr. Pendleton, I don't want to hurry you up with your work, but there's a local police constable who's, well, he usually comes by around now just to check on us, of course, make sure everything's okay. I think you should probably not be here much longer.
Miss Johnson, you should know that you cannot rush good science. But I am very good at my job and I am done here, so perhaps we'll just cover these up and figure out something to do with them later.
What do you do when she kind of looks over your shoulder and kind of sees that something like Jimmy is sort of looks a little bloodier than she remembers? Do you just quickly cover the body or what?
I think I've covered the bodies, like I probably covered him back up when I was finished looking at him. Whether or not I covered him up completely or if you can see the blood, well, Dr. Pendleton is just going to stare Jenny down.
I like it. She pretends like she sees nothing and just says, well, follow me. Of course, you know the way to go, but she's leading you out of the back towards the front of the house.
Miss Johnson, I do have to ask. Just out of professional curiosity, I happen to know that whenever something is a little bit amiss in a situation that tends to be significant, that tends to be something of interest, I happen to notice that there is one singular booth here in your opium den, unlike the other open opium spots. Now, this singular booth has a particular man wearing a very strange outfit. I must say it does stand out quite a little bit.
The man in the sun mask is who you mean, Dr. Pendleton.
Yes. What can you tell me about this person?
He loves having guests, especially unusual people who are not high on opium. You should certainly stop in and ask him yourself.
Well, I suppose if I'd be a welcome guest, I wouldn't want to impose on any one of your, clients.
He is not the sort of person who is easily imposed upon, but he has his own space here because he's very wealthy.
Ah, yes, of course. Anyone can be bought.
It's more of a professional courtesy on my part. Please.
Now that is interesting.
And she waves her hand over in his direction. Do you go there?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll pick up with that in a bit. Dryden, let's have this journal scene a little bit. What do you say? Do you pretend to be Aurelius Strybach?
Oh yeah, I totally pretend to be Aurelius. I'm like, Hargrave House has its ways. I've been away for a while, but I'm back, and
he says,
thought I'd look you up.
You're back? This is all written, obviously.
Yeah.
You're back. The only way that could be possible is if you finally let someone give you the gift.
Yeah, and I think I say, you vampires think that vampirism is the only way to get immortality, but allow me to tell you that there are other ways.
I'm very intrigued, Aurelius. Very intrigued indeed. I have a few more hours before I am feeling fully refreshed, but I will certainly come pay a visit at my old stomping grounds. I haven't thought about HH in years. Decades, even. HH, of course, being Hargrave House.
Yeah, Hargrave House. Yeah. I'm definitely trying to draw him away from the house. And I say,
well, what do you say then?
Why don't we meet somewhere more discreet? The new hunters here aren't like the lot I served with in my time. They're a bunch of amateurs. why don't we meet? I don't
Well,
know. You pick the spot.
you should come to my place. I'm surprised you haven't been by already, since you're here in London again, at Hargrave House again, filled with some strange new divine power that you are being very cagey about giving me details on.
I prefer to meet on neutral ground, if you don't mind.
All right.
I think like the voice I'm writing in is like very confident, right? But that doesn't show that like when Dryden's writing, he's like, oh shit. And like he knows no one's home, right? So he can just cuss. And he's just like, oh.
He gives you an address, which conveniently, because you know the area well, say, it's conveniently near the Limehouse School, which is one of your leads on this investigation. Now, the address is not the Limehouse School, but it's around the corner from it. He says, so, tonight?
See you there.
Before you close the journal, he says, I might bring a few friends. I hope that's okay.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Shit.
Very good. Very good. Taking a look at the time, we could probably do another quick round of scenes before we move into the next phase. So after you're done having that interesting interaction, what do you do then, Dryden?
Yeah, I think he throws the pen down as if it's like the pen's fault. Like, this is why I never write, you know? And he turns around and is like trying to figure out what to do, and he sees the shawl and like wags his finger at it, says, I will deal with you later. Other things have come up. My
Indeed.
nemesis.
Indeed.
And yeah, I think, you know, I check the time and make sure the sun isn't going down before the doctor and Ms. Byrne get back. And that's kind of like how I'm gauging what I'm going to do next, I think. Yeah.
There's still some day left, so you probably got a couple of hours before they'll be back.
Yeah.
If you want to think about it for a bit, we'll cut over to
awesome.
Cut over to Ms. Byrne. Well, Ms. Byrne, I owe you a clue. None of that chest bursting stuff happened, of course. That was all some other timeline, some other dimension, some other part of the multiverse. She says, I know we're not supposed to be talking about what happened to that young man, that sailor, the Chinese sailor. Rory, Miss Johnston, they got together and they conferred on it, and they told me that I was not supposed to say a word to anybody. But it seems like you already know quite a bit, and you don't look like you're from Scotland Yard, so... And you bought me an ale. So I'm feeling, well... Say no more. You don't have to convince me. I'll tell you what I know, though it isn't much. You've wrung it out of me. You've twisted my arm, so to speak. Look around. And she sort of like points. She says, look at that old clock over there. Imagine a clock in a place like this. But look. And you do look. She says, and you'll notice that the 3, the 6, and the 9 are all missing from the clock face. She says, that's a funny thing, don't you think?
Definitely curious.
And look there. There's a beam overhead. And the beam at regular intervals has 3 bolts in the wood. But in one of them, the 3rd bolt is missing. And she says, and look over there. And you'll see that you'll see that. How do I describe this? There is like so this was like an old this is like a seaman's place, right? Like a sailor place. And there are decorative like line ties, I don't know what you call those, like on a pier. Rory, the barkeep, just has like on the bar, he's got like some of those up there just as decoration, right? She says, there used to be a third one, and now it's gone. Don't you think that's funny? Things in threes, divisible by 3, the third thing missing. It's odd.
It's definitely
That didn't
a pattern
happen.
for sure.
I didn't notice any of that until the night that sailor died.
Very curious.
You want to see something really unusual? And she smiles wide. And she taps her teeth. 1, 2, third one's missing. 1, 2, third one's missing. She says, just pulling your leg. Nobody pulled my teeth out that night. Those are just teeth that are missing. But a coincidence? Who could say? I don't know.
I definitely believe in fate for sure. Teeth or no.
She says, well, look at you there. And I think if it's okay, I'm going to say that you have like a little brooch with 3 small jewels, and the third one has fallen loose from the setting. She says,
Could
curious,
be the slates.
curious,
Yes.
curious.
Huh.
I wonder what it means.
That is what me and my colleagues will be trying to figure out for sure.
Your colleagues. This is not just the interest of a woman with ghoulish concerns, a novelist, penny novelist, some such.
We of Hargrave House have a curious nature into strange things like this, for sure.
I've heard that, Hargrave House. I know that name.
You've
Best
been
of luck,
very
then.
helpful. Yes.
Thank you. You've been very generous, and she raises her ale.
And Helena will raise her mug as well and then drink.
That's your clue, though. Things in threes going missing.
Cool.
Or the third of a set of 3. Oh boy. The man in the sun mask. Dr. Pendleton. The man is lounging on cushions, kind of laying on his side. This brocade gown is sort of spilling over him. And he has, you can see now, underneath the dressing gown, yellow silk pants and soft slippers on his feet. And he has this sun-shaped mask on his face. And he speaks to the mask, of course. He says, I wondered if you were going to come by and say hello.
I dare say you expected me to. With this getup, do you always wear your pajamas outside?
I'm embarrassed to say that I am a man of leisure. And when you are a man of leisure and a man of means, you acquire certain eccentricities in life. You look like the sort of person who has eccentricities.
And what exactly do you mean by that? Curiosity asks
Well,
you.
it is merely an instinct, Doctor.
Well, I suppose by instinct I came over here. You see, you are quite the anomaly. You're very different from anyone else over here in the Limehouse district, at least anyone else I've met. And, well, different is always a little bit interesting.
I have a very strong feeling that you would like very much to see what, say, my eyes look like behind this mask.
Well, it just so happens that I've had my fill of eyes today.
Yes, I intuited that. Please, do you partake of the puppy?
Oh, no, none for me. But if you wouldn't mind, and she pulls out a little tonic bottle, and this one has a different code written on it, and hands it to him. If you wouldn't mind putting a few just bits in there for me, please.
All work and no play. What is your name, madam?
I am Dr. Penelope Pendleton, and you are?
I'm afraid I'm not able to divulge my identity, Doctor. I wear this mask because I am a very highly placed member of the royal family, and it wouldn't do for people to see me in a place like this.
Yes, that story is completely believable. You could have just given me a pseudonym.
Yes, I suppose I could have. But I'm not that quick on my feet, unfortunately. Here, for your little bottles. And he puts some little bit of the opium. Special blend.
She gives the bottle a little sniff.
It has
Just
that distinct ammonia smell. Yeah.
She stoppers it, places it delicately in her bag of stuff. Now, tell me, Mr. Sun, you are a frequent client of Jenny Johnston's, I take it?
Yes. Ms. Johnston is very, very kind to me. She allows me use of this room so that I don't have to be among the rabble. I have to protect my identity in a place like this, Doctor. I am a captain of industry, and it wouldn't do for someone of my stature to be seen in a place like this.
Captain of industry and a member of the royal family. Goodness, you are everything, aren't you?
I told you I'm a man of means.
Well, Mr. Sun, since you spend a lot of time in this area, I do think I might be able to get some information that I require from you, if you wouldn't mind indulging me a little.
Please, as you wish. What do you want to know?
Well, I've been hearing some stories, all sorts of stories, really, from this area of town, this area of London. Now, I don't frequent this area myself, you see. I'm just here on a little visit for work.
I
And
gather this is about the bodies in Miss Johnston's basement, yes?
you are a strange one, aren't you?
I am privy to information of a sort, Dr. Pendleton. I know things. It is one of my chief attributes.
Well, this is a wonderful moment for you to put those attributes on display. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about what you know?
Make an information move with presence. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, goodness. I don't know what my presence is like.
I want to take a look at your conditions, too, to see if anything might apply. Oh, you don't have any. So.
I don't have any yet.
Yeah, okay. Go for it.
I just said yet. I don't know. I just jinxed myself. My presence is 0, so that's fine. I'm just going to take a little look at my personal quarters to see if I have anything in there that might be helpful. I think I'm going to save them.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, that's a 10.
Hey, nice. Good. We'll come back to this. Dryden, you've got a little bit of, I'll give you one more scene in the day phase if you can think of something else you want to do.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might run to this address and like stake it out before I have to meet anyone there while it's daylight.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
You can be there. The Limehouse School is nearby, and the address is. Well, he told you to meet him. Well, so here's the thing. The address is there's nothing there. It's like an
Got it.
abandoned building.
Okay.
Looks like it used to be a storefront of some sort, but doesn't
Yeah,
appear to be
yeah.
anything right now. At a
Great.
glance.
Yeah. I just want to like know my entrances and exits and like and like just know how to get out if I meet some entity there and need to get the hell out of Dodge.
Make the
Yeah.
information move. Even though you're not investigating the threat directly, you can still find out things about the threat as long as you're
Right.
looking for things.
Cool.
And I think it'll be with reason.
Oh, great. Well, my reason just went down.
It just went
so
down,
that's
yeah.
convenient. So I rolled a 10, so I got a 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think well, I'll give you your basic answer first. It appears to me there's no way of even going into this address. The door is like boarded up, so how you're supposed to even get in there is unclear. But there is a side entrance. That's almost certainly where this person who's writing you, who you believe is a vampire, it sounds like, that's almost certainly where they intend to take you into. Now, per the move, you actually get a clue for the Limehouse Lurker also.
Right.
And I will tell you, there is a drunk in the alley. And he kind of stumbles over to you. And he says, "Can you hear it?" I said, "Can you hear it?"
Yeah, I'm just gearing myself up to ask, what do you hear? So, yes, I do not hear it.
I can
What do
hear
you
it.
hear?
It's the voice. The small voice. It creeps about. I can hear it from above. I can hear it from below. He's quiet now. Can hear him better at night. Talks to me at night.
If you listen and you follow its directions, you will die. Do you understand me? Even sooner than the liquor will kill you. And in a far more terrible way.
If you'd lived the kind of life I'd lived, you'd know that that's no sort of warning.
Hush.
I wonder why that voice is always chastising me about my drinking. What business is it of that creature?
Interesting. Could you tell me any more of what it says?
It's a boy. Sounds like my boy did when he was a boy. Chastising me for my drink, much like you're doing right now. Maybe you're related, you and that boy. Do you also skulk about? You hide in the dark? You creep about? No, you're not the creeping type, I can tell by the look of you.
Listen, you really want to get away from this voice. You're going to get hurt. It's not your boy, no matter what it says. It is going to lie to you and is going to try to get you into a dark, isolated place. And then you're going to wish you'd never heard it.
He's kind of passed out at this point.
Shit. Yeah, I'll pick him up. Literally like firemen's carry him out of that alley. And as I head home, I'll just like put him in a different neighborhood for tonight. You know, like I'll literally like just put him on a different bench.
Yeah, you can get a handsome cab and take him somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll just say take him across town, and I you know, and
I
get him out of there.
When you drop him off, wherever you drop him off, he grabs you before you can walk away. He's quite lucid, and he looks at you and he says, "What are you going to do if you hear the voice?"
I'm going to gather the people I work for, and we're going to kill it. That's what we do.
Yeah, right. Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you. Do not come back to this neighborhood. I just kind of I say, take a nap. I close the door and I tip the driver and send him on his way.
Send him on his way. Good. But I think as you're doing that, you'll notice that there is a police constable who's watching you as you do all this. And he's been watching you basically ever since you kind of came out of the alley.
Yeah.
Take the condition being watched.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I think we'll wrap up the scene with Dr. Pendleton, and then we'll probably call it a day phase. So let's go to Dr. Pendleton. Conversation with the man in the sun mask. He says, Doctor, you strike me as a very intelligent woman. Perhaps one of the most intelligent in London. But I am here to tell you that you are asking all of the wrong questions when it comes to this matter. Do you know, Doctor, that there is a world beyond this world? It's like our own world. It is, in fact, our world, but it's older. It's impossibly ancient. It's a world where the sun is new, and where old spirits and old gods play and make war with each other. I have seen this world with all my eyes. It is magnificent and terrible and bloody and every other awful, wonderful thing you can imagine. You must look beyond what your eyes can see in this plane of existence, Dr. Pendleton, if you intend to get to the bottom of everything in London.
Goodness. High up royal family, captain of industry, person who has seen other worlds? Tell me, Mr. Sun, since you know so much about these other worlds, what do they look like?
Well, and I do owe you a clue. That actually wasn't a clue. That was just him giving a little speech.
It's just the man in the sun mask being the man in the sun mask.
Man in the sun mask, yeah. He says, Dr. Pendleton, let's stay focused on your question, shall we? You must look to the past. You must look to the ancient world. And here he takes out what appears to be like a toy Viking ship from his robe, but it's broken. The masts are broken. And he says, I found this not far from where poor soft Jimmy was found. A child's toy, perhaps, but maybe something more. And he presses it into your hand and says, the ancient world, that other world, is not so far away as we think, Dr. Pendleton. And what did you get on your roll?
10.
Okay. You can, we'll just call the scene there. And that will conclude the day phase. So let's take a look at the next phase, which is the dawn. No, I'm sorry, it's dusk, not dawn. Okay. Now the dusk phase is just kind of a little upkeep intermediary phase, but right before we get to the night phase, it kind of sets up the night phase. So the first thing we have to do is we have to resolve any playbook moves or custom moves that are resolved during the dusk, and it doesn't look like we have any, so we can skip that. The next thing we do is I will pose a paint the scene question, but about Hargrave House. So it's kind of our chance to learn a little bit about Hargrave House. And indeed, the idea is that the three of you have met up and are discussing what's been happening in this room during this dusk period. And we're going to do the trophy room. The Hargrave House Trophy Room. There were hunters living in Hargrave House before you, as we have ably established this session. Trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found here. Please describe one.
Hanging on the wall, sort of near the entrance actually, is a large oak plaque that is polished and painted in a very nice wood color. Affixed to that plaque are two hands with extremely long fingernails, extremely long fingers that are very skeletal and gray. The skin is still on these hands, and if you were to touch it, it would feel like very cold skin, but skin nonetheless. And they have so many lines in the palms, more lines than any human possibly could ever have, but there's no note or placard or anything to say what these are or where they're from.
Up on the wall, mounted above, I guess, a fireplace or something, some such, there is there's a skull of a massive boar's head. And the way it's situated, it's high enough up that nobody can really touch it. And if you are standing underneath it, you can see, like, within the boar's skull, you can see a human skull inside it.
Oof. Nice. There is a preserved bit of taxidermy. I think it's probably a little bigger than a I think it's a big wolfhound, and it there's a placard underneath it, and it says the Hound of Hargrave, and I think there is a I don't know. I'm caught between like giving it some really unsettling detail, or like, no, it was just a pet. And like, it's just, what's unsettling is that they were like, no, this dog was so good that like, they just had to put it up. I think that's the unsettling. I think that's way more unsettling actually. Yeah. Some Hargrave hunter was like, we can't like just bury Hound. We've got to put him up so other hunters down the decades can see him. So yeah, there is just a big wolfhound that was definitely the Hargrave House's pet once.
I love it. Okay, great. Let's continue on with the desk phase. The next thing we have to do is... Okay, so now you get to say what you want to do tonight. I do want to check in and see if, at this point, does anybody have a theory about whether they think the vampire is young or old based off the clues you found? You don't have to use all the clues. You can save some for the next question, but...
I want to say old. I mean, like, if we want to answer a question now, my personal thought is that the vampire is old because the tightly wrapped gardenia in a wound was very carefully wrapped. I mean, there was like some consideration, there was some time taken to do it, and so it was in there. So
not something a kid would do. Yeah.
No. And then the drunkard claiming a childlike voice has been castigating them for their excessive drinking. No kid's gonna care or be able to do that. And then the Roman phalanx and the wooden toy Viking ship just kind of points to this vampire has history. So it's not just toy drawing, like a simple child's drawing or a simple toy. I mean, these are things that maybe are done as kind of like a memory or like a just kind of like a calling card because of the collection that they must have amassed from all this time. So
I think I would like to, because I really like it's all the same kind of thing that I was thinking of. I think I also really like the idea that these things that are that come in threes, the third thing is missing. It has this sort of feeling of old vampire lore, not new vampire lore, like something that old vampires would do, versus I think a newer vampire would probably be sloppier. They wouldn't be doing the gardenia thing, and I think they wouldn't have the same sort of compulsions that an old vampire that's been around for a really long time would have, like removing
Oh,
things
so
from
it's almost like
food.
it's a fetishistic habit or something, a
Yeah.
ritual. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really strong case. Judd, do you have any like
Yeah, I thought that
alternate theories or?
the third thing missing was that maybe this thing saw the transition between you know, pagan England and Christianity, where there's a Trinity,
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
so
really
there's
good.
like
Yeah,
a hatred of that kind of baked into it, and
yeah,
that's
yeah. It's a good theory. I do think that the interesting clue on the next question will be that messy kill, like because you'd think of the messy kill is the one that kind of like pushes against the idea for this question at least. But if you save it for the next question, then it doesn't matter. It's fine. But so if we taking a look at the clue list, the Roman phalanx drawing and the Viking ship indicate that the vampire comes from antiquity. The things in threes, two interesting sort of sub theories there, but they're both valid, I think, and could and relevant. One having to do with the Trinity, and the vampire might have actually been around at that time when Christianity became a thing. Especially if the vampire, it sounds like the vampire, if it's old, might have Roman, history. But also it could just be like a sort of like strange, it could be something that the old vampires do, right? Like they have some kind of strange ritualistic uh old vampire wives, tale thing about threes, right? So it's interesting. And then the gardenia. So the thing about the gardenia, I agree that no child would do this like intricate, strange behavior, but I'm not exactly sure what it might say about it being an old vampire, though. Like, what would be even the point of doing this? It's like really unclear, like why they would do this strange behavior.
Maybe it's something to do with the smell of the wounds.
Oh, interesting.
That it's trying to hide the scent of the wounds, possibly from other vampires.
Well,
Maybe
from
there's a
other
vampire turf
vampires.
war,
Oh, that's interesting.
and they can like
So
smell
it's
each other's
so then
I,
that
wound scents.
and that
I was gonna,
also
yeah, I was
indicates that
gonna
it might be
say that.
older. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
of
was
the
gonna
nose.
say that, or even like weirder, like this is how it seasons its food. The gardenia,
It's like
like
a
aromatic.
yeah, yeah.
You know, that's
I like the
seasoning.
idea of it being it's got something to do with like some kind of like marking territory thing. I think that's an interesting idea. Well, who knows? Okay, so those are 5 clues towards this complexity 4. If you all want to go ahead and answer it, let's read the move. It says the move is called Answer a Question. When the hunters have a discussion about the answer to a question, once they have gathered a number of clues equal to at least half the complexity, and you reach a consensus, sounds like everybody agrees that the vampire is old. Roll plus the number of clues incorporated minus the complexity. So basically, it's 5 clues minus 4 complexity. So it's a +1 on the roll. It doesn't matter who rolls. Whoever spoke first, Mads, you kind of did. So why don't you roll?
Okay.
+1.
Okay, that is an 8.
An 8. On a 7 or on a hit. No, I'm sorry. So on a 10 plus, it's the correct solution and an opportunity can be pursued. On a 7 9, as above, it's the correct solution, but I will add an unwelcome complication to the answer, or pursuing the opportunity will be more dangerous. Now, the opportunity here is merely to unlock the next question, but I will say the 7 to 9, I think the problem here is the vampire, who we now know is an old vampire, is, and presumably powerful, is exquisitely sensitive to Hargrave House's attention to it. If you are okay with that, we'll let it stand. Or you can all mark Janus Mask to bump up the result to 10.
You know me, I'm always up for bumping up into with the Janus Mask.
It's up to you. It's
Yeah,
a
I'm
two-shot.
happy to
so
use a Janus mask because that's how we find out about the character backstories, and I want to know about your backstories. But I also love drama, so I'm here for either.
What do you think, Judd?
Yeah, I'm up for learning a bit about backstory. I think that's great. I think it's a good time for it.
Yeah, everyone can mark. You can mark past or future as you wish, but past is always fun to learn more about the characters.
Can
Okay,
you mark Mask of the Sun?
There's also Mask of the Sun. That's true. Yeah, one of you can choose that. In any case, if the masks are marked, that bumps the result up to a 10. And so you're correct, and the Limehouse Lurker is not any more aware of Hargrave House than he would be otherwise.
Does anybody want to take Mask of the Sun? Because if not, I will.
We all have to do it. The past.
Okay.
Yep.
Judd?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. All right. So
I'll read Mask of the Sun. Now, okay. Mask of the Sun, even though Ms. Byrne chooses it for purposes of getting the die roll improved, the text of the mask actually applies to everyone. It says, each hunter narrates a dream they once had of primordial earth, back in time across the ancient seas, back in time when the spirits walked, when the sun was new and the old gods held court. Be thinking on it. Your strange dream gifted to you from the Man in the Sun mask. And let's continue on with the phase here. Okay. Now, what does everyone want to do tonight? I will tell you that, as I mentioned earlier, the night belongs to me. And so you get to say what you want to do. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. I might have other plans. But you get to at least speak. Everyone gets to say what they want to do. And then after you hear everyone, you can revise your plan. Ms. Byrne.
Definitely want to wander down during nighttime to Limehouse again. Maybe not necessarily go back to the Dog and Whistle or check out the Opium Den or the Limehouse School. I want to use my move called a Beacon in the Dark.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, you get to walk around and soak up the supernatural juices. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I love that. Great. Yeah, I love it. Dr. Pendleton?
I don't see any problem with checking out a creepy school in the middle of the night. So
sure, why not?
I'm gonna go do that.
Well, and to be clear, these schools they're like workhouses for poor people. They're not actual schools. But yeah. But that doesn't make it any less creepy, of course. Dryden, you have a date. Are you going on that date?
I'm going on the date.
All right, sounds good.
I mean, we did text. It's you can't just text him. Can't just ghost.
No, ghost him. Yeah, or her, I suppose. We don't know. Good. Let's keep going with our phases here. Okay, and finally, where are we at? Oh, this is optional. So we have a lot of Janus Mask on the table right now, prompts that need to be resolved. You can save it until later for the dawn phase, but if you know now you want to narrate one of your things, either the Mask of the Sun that everybody has to do or something that you've marked on your character sheet, you can do it now if you're ready.
I'm good to go.
Yeah,
do you want to go first?
Oh, whoever wants to go. Go ahead, Mads.
Mads, you go first.
Okay. Narrate a flashback to the time when you were in your mother's womb that shows, even then, dark entities were interested in you. I remember being floating in fluid, and I could see only the tips of my hands and the feel of warmth of this fluid that I was floating in. But I could hear my mother's voice, even in the womb. She was singing, and it was beautiful singing. Didn't understand the words, but I knew that it was about love and it was about brightness. But there was also something a little dark about it as well. When I moved my hands, and then I could see against the walls of this place that I was in, I could see something pushing towards me, like another hand, a bigger hand, not with as many fingers. And where the walls of this place were red and blue, these hands were making the impression of black and dark.
Fabulous. Thank you. Dr. Pendleton?
I'm going to do the Mask of the Sun with the primordial dream. I think Dr. Pendleton didn't mention this while talking to the Man in the Sun mask, because of course she didn't, but she does recall a dream that she had where she was just walking through London like it was a normal day, beautiful sunny day, and she reached into her bag of things and pulled out a sun mask, just like the one the Man in the Sun mask is wearing. And when she raised it up to her face and put it on, the seal closed around her skin. She saw something quite different than just London as she knows it. She saw this world of the sand and nothingness, and then watched as pieces of grass and trees and shrubs start to grow out and then start to decay and fall apart. She saw the plates in the ground moving as if she was watching the plates of the world shifting and forming mountains and valleys. Most fascinatingly, she saw a mound of maggots and bugs as it cleaned a carcass. And then from that carcass started to arise an animal, a small deer of some sort at first. And as it grew and as it stepped through and learned to walk, it started to age and its antlers grew out and its antlers started to um, lose all of its velvet and just become the bloodied look, and it started to age and grow gray and start to decay, not even steps from where it was born, until it falls apart in just a pile of bones and nothingness, and the maggots come and the cycle starts over. And that's what she remembers from her dream, and that's what she took with her into her work.
Fabulous. Thank you. Dryden, do you have any chance maps you want to do?
Yeah, I wanted to do a a kind of a backstory one. I think we see Dryden on a British military vessel, and he is for folks who are watching at home and can tell Victorian naval ranks by looking at a uniform. He is midshipman Dryden, and he is walking along the ship. I think like maybe after a watch, and he comes upon an officer who is drunk and has a pistol and is has sequestered himself away on a part of the ship where he didn't think anyone would be in order to kill himself. And we see Dryden talk him down and get the pistol away from him. And that's kind of when he looks back on his naval career, he's like, oh, that was the best thing I ever did. Everything else wasn't so great. But yeah, that's the little Dryden backstory.
I love it. Thank you. And I think with that, we can pick up, if there's any more, we can do them during the dawn phase. Let's talk about the unseen. Okay, now this is a special thing in the between. There's nothing like it in any other role-playing game, except other between-based role-playing games. The unseen. This is a scene that, I mentioned at the beginning that one of our goals in this game is to depict London, right? and London is a character. And the unseen, which is a play on the words unseen, as if like cannot be seen, but also SCENE, seen. The unseen is something that's happening in the city of London on the same night. So tonight, as your characters are doing what they're doing, this is something else that's happening in the city. It has nothing to do with the story. It is strictly just us showing the world, except one of your experience points comes from getting what's called an echo in the night. And what an echo in the night is if you manage to connect something from the unseen into your hunter scenes, in either your own or somebody else's. And so as an example of what I mean by that, the connection can be visual or thematic, or it can be very subtle. It can be very on the nose. It's all fine. For example, if we describe a woman dying of consumption, and in the unseen, someone describes her coughing blood into a bowl, say, then in the hunter scene, you describe your hunter looking at a bowl of red flowers. That is an echo in the night, because it's like this splash of red in the bowl, right? It can be subtle and symbolic like that, or it can be more direct, like you just described, candlelight in the unseen and then candlelight in the hunter scene, right? But in any case, if you click over to the tab that says London at Night, the Unseen, that's where they all are. And the unseen we're going to be doing tonight is called... what do we want to do tonight? I've grown to love all of them, if I'm being honest. A lot. They're all so fun. Let's go ahead and do Brown's Hotel. That is on, it starts on line 21 of the sheet. None of the 117 rooms at Brown's Hotel on Albemarle Street are the same, though they each have housed some of the most fashionable people you'll find in London or anywhere. A concierge, Teddy Miller, delights in spying on the hotel's posh clientele. Now we have 4 prompts here, and you're each responsible for one, and I'm responsible for one as well, since there's only 3 players. The first prompt is going to be for Judd. Second prompt will be for Amanda. I'm going to take the third one, the real gay one, because I never get to do this, so I'm going to take my chance now. And the fourth one will be for Mads. So, Taylor, we're going to take our second break. Just like a little quick 3-minute break. We'll come back, read your prompt on the Browns Hotel and be thinking about it. And we'll do the night phase. The night phase is really fast, so we should have time to finish it. But I'll see you in 3. Back with the night phase. We begin at Brown's Hotel in London. Judd, Teddy puts his ear up against the door of a wealthy young bachelor. What does he hear that makes him desperately want the life of this young bachelor?
He hears the young bachelor making travel plans and ordering new suits and like people. There's this like a stream of people coming in, and this person is clearly very well to do and at the start of a brand new life, and is going to be going to interesting places. And Teddy will never leave this hotel. And yeah, that's what I got.
Speaking of going to interesting places, Ms. Byrne, you're walking the streets of London, letting your consciousness expand. Per your move, it actually says, let's read it real quick. A beacon in the dark. When you walk the streets of London at night, your consciousness spreading across the city like a vast spider web. Tell us what that feels like.
She takes a pause and actually will let her feet take her. She turns into a direction towards Limehouse, like heading towards there, and then just will stride very deliberately and then let her feet take her as she's semi-closing her eyes, reaching out a little bit with her hands, and then feeling, well, the entity's like right on the edge of her vision, but then like also this thrumming, feeling the city, and also like hearing without hearing the sounds of what's going on.
Please go ahead and roll with sensitivity.
Does my condition affect it?
No.
Okay. Okay. Brilliant start. A 3.
Great fun. Is there a miss condition on this one? Let's see. There is not. I get to do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm. Great.
You might decide later to do the jazz. I'll give you a chance to do jazz mask later if you want, but
Yeah.
I'm going to away for now. Let's keep going. Dr. Pendleton, remind me what you were going to do tonight?
I'm heading over to the Limehouse School.
That's right. I assume you're taking a cab because it's a bit of a hike, especially at night, from Belgrave to Limehouse.
Yeah, Dr. Pendleton doesn't really strike me as a particularly active person who likes to take long walks.
Unless you're snipping body parts off corpses, right? You're in your cab, and the cab comes to a stop because there's a large carriage in the intersection, a grand carriage with brass detail, 4 horses. It's enormous. A coachman. And the handsome cab driver looks back at you and says, "Sorry, Mum, I'm not sure why they're not going. They're just sort of parked there in the road." You can tell he seems a little nervous because this person in the carriage is clearly like a sort of upper class person, but he's like kind of motioning at the coachman to move along, but it's not moving along.
Oh, for goodness sakes, let me do it. And Dr. Pendleton is going to step out of the carriage, the handsome cab, and walk up to this very ornate carriage.
Indeed.
Ready to throw down.
Dryden, everyone's out tonight. You have a place to be.
Yeah.
But before you go, I think you are tidying up whatever's left of, whatever Dr. Pendleton was doing before she left. And
Yep.
Dr. Pendleton's room is on the 2nd story of Hargrave House. And you hear a tap, 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 tap at the window outside. Tap, 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 tap. The curtain is closed, so you can't see. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I would imagine my room is kind of like across the hall so that I can be there if Pendleton needs it. And I reach into my shirt and I grab a little wrought iron cross, and I think it also has some of the herbs that Ms. Byrne used to like make her hands burn like earlier. Like it's got some of those on it, and I twist. I twist it, and it's a little key, and I grab my box, and I open it, and I think there is like a hammer and some stakes, and it's just like a straight up Victorian vampire. I think there's a handsaw, and it's a yeah, it's what you'd expect to be in a vampire hunting kit. Yep. He gets it. He kind of puts it under his arm, goes back, takes a deep breath, like this is the job, and then throws the curtains aside.
Amanda, back at Brown's hotel, Teddy rummages through the personal effects of an actress staying at the hotel while she's out. What does he find that makes him desire her or desire to be her?
This actress is a famous stage actress known for her very lyrical voice. She's an older woman, quite a bit older than Teddy, actually. And going through her things, her beautiful costumes and her beautiful wigs that smell just so amazing and clean and fresh, he, knowing that nobody's there, sneaks one on and catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror. And it's a bit of a melancholic feeling because he knows that as he ages and gets older, he'll never be able to lean into it this way. He'll get older and more feeble and not be able to work and end up in a poorhouse. And this woman, for a moment with this wig on, he can feel like being proud of getting older, being proud of what he can accomplish in his life. But he knows when he takes the wig off, that feeling will be gone.
Miss Byrne, you have reached into the complicated psychic web of this city, and you have drawn something to you. You hear above, in the darkness, just above the gas lamps, just outside the nimbus of light. And very gradually, you see a police constable lowering into the light. He's floating in the air, suspended and spread out like Christ on the cross, and he has a look of terror on his face. What do you do?
He's just suspended there?
Just floating above you. No one else is around, so you have at least that.
Right. Oh, goodness. She's gonna forego the full part of her ritual at least, and she's just gonna whip out her hair clip and then stab her palm, and then rub her hands and then call upon the entities to offer that up, without lighting it, and then just
See
try
what
to
happens.
see what happens.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Dr. Pendleton, you approach this grand carriage, and the curtain in the passenger compartment slides across, revealing the person who's inside. It is a beautiful woman, a beautiful black woman wearing, well, her hair is done up in a very elaborate style. And most strikingly, she has around her neck a necklace with the largest sapphire you've ever seen, glittering. Even in the faint light of night, it glitters. And she looks at you, and she gives you almost like a quizzical look, like she's assessing you. And there's just a tiny smile playing on the corner of her mouth. What do you do?
I'm not intimidated. Or if I am, I'm not going to let it show. Madam, I dare say you should be moving your carriage along. You are holding up the rest of traffic.
She says, I'm very sorry. How careless of me. How thoughtless of me. I can see that you are a woman on a mission.
Why else would a woman be out in the middle of night? We have better things to do than just trample around.
She says, yes, I suppose you do. Dr. Pendleton.
Oh, goodness. Well, I suppose you want an autograph?
Your animated nature, the rumors I'd heard about your particular vim and spirit, they are all true, Doctor. All true. And she
Well,
leans back in her carriage. You see, even as she leans back into the darkness of the carriage, you see the glimmer of the sapphire. And she pulls the curtain closed. And we cut over to the curtain being flung open. There is a man outside the window. He is beautiful. He has a head of long blonde hair. His skin is quite pale. And he's wearing a strategically, it's a little out of date, but it's kind of a frilly white pirate shirt with sort of, it looks very intentionally undone buttons revealing his chest. And you can't quite tell, but his pants look quite tight as well. He's not dressed for nighttime. And he looks surprised to see you. There's no ledge outside the window. He sees all of your equipment. And he says, "That's quite a welcome."
Yep.
Well, aren't you going to let me in?
No. You are not invited.
What if I told you I don't need an invitation? That's just
I think, yeah.
a rumor.
I like move my arm and like let the stuff fall on the table. Like let the fuss. Actually, it's probably like on the bed, right? I let the stuff like fall on the bed between me and him, and I say, "Take your chances."
He says, "Across, really? I expected someone living in Hargrave House would know better that all those superstitious nonsense would have some sort of effect on people like me."
And yet, a stake through the heart kills most things. And
Touche.
taking off its head afterwards usually finishes it.
Indeed, indeed. It seems we are at a bit of a standstill then, sir.
You aren't the one who we're investigating, so why don't you tell me about that one so we can get that sloppy bit of mess off of your streets, and we won't have to be coming after you.
Well, I'd be happy to come inside and tell you everything I know. Except,
Number one, I don't let vampires in. Number two, I definitely don't let vampires dressed as pirates.
he says, and he just sort of like floats
Yeah.
down. You just see his like head dropping below the sill.
Right.
There's like nothing else.
I close the curtains. I've got other shit to do. Get out of here, man. Yeah,
Back to Brown's Hotel.
Yeah.
Teddy, this is for me, draws a hot bath for a pair of good-looking young men staying in the same room. In what ways does Teddy help bring the erotic subtext of the scene to the fore? I think Teddy actually, this is something he does for these two young men quite often. They come in, they are slightly drunk. Teddy has laid out candles and lit them around this bathtub. And he's always very quiet. He has very strict instructions not to look them in the eye, not to talk to them while they are playing their little game. But they stand and stare at each other while he unbuttons their shirts. And helps them undress. And the bathtub is sort of surrounded by this sort of theatrical curtain. It's like a little stage, and he gently closes the curtains as they sink into the water and takes up their things and leaves. Ms. Byrne.
I think as she
You're
She
doing a quick and dirty rites of salt and smoke.
right. I think as she's doing this, and then she's like, letting the blood pool in her palm, and then offering it up to whomever's going to listen. I think she's also saying to this whatever is keeping this police constable up in the air. I think she's saying it's like, you don't have to do this. You can travel elsewhere, somewhere else, have a brand new life. You don't have to do that. Let him down easy.
I think this is actually the night move.
Okay.
What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Well, the constable's going to get dropped or torn open, something, and then like my entities are as a joke, are just not gonna respond. They're gonna take my blood and then just like like give me a wonderful ha ha, as the guy's being torn open in front of me.
It's worse than that. According to the move, I have to tell you how it's worse than
Sure.
what you've said. It's worse. The constable is going to be quite violently killed, and the entities are going to invite you to feast upon his blood and bone.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be with sensitivity. I am going to put you at disadvantage because of fatalistic.
Sure. Okay, hold on a second. I just want to see if I can use like a personal item. Hold on. No, I can't use it. I'm just trying to think something, anything. All right, never mind. 3 dice. Okay, that is a that's a 6.
A 6.
God.
We'll come back to that.
Oh.
Dr. Pendleton, you arrive at the Limehouse school, but you don't get far. A police constable. You don't know him, but this is the one out of character. It's the one that was watching Dryden when he came by. He approaches you and he says, "You were here earlier today, weren't you? In the area, I mean."
Well, not here specifically.
No. But, well, call me zealous in my duties, but I saw a strange fellow here earlier, walking about. I saw you earlier, walking about. I followed him. He led to you, and now here you are, back again.
Well, it sounds like you've
Strange.
had quite a bit of a jaunt.
Have indeed. Perhaps you could tell me what's so interesting here in Limehouse for you and your manservant.
Well, I'm surprised you knew he was my manservant. Did he just go ahead and announce that to you?
I want the night move with composure. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve here?
I'm going to get arrested.
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. You're going to get arrested, and he's going to run this up the flagpole. Whatever's going on here.
Oh, that is worse.
Yeah.
With composure?
With composure. Do you have any conditions right now?
No.
Yeah, composure's fine. Go ahead.
I rolled a 3.
A 3.
And I have a 1 for composure.
Let's check in with Dryden. Dryden, you've closed the curtain. And you hear the front door being opened down in Hargrave House. You hear it. What do you do?
I get. Does like the house have a shotgun? Is that just too American?
I don't No.
No? Cool.
I don't know.
I walk. On my way there, I pick up a fireplace poker.
Okay. That's properly
And,
Victorian.
Yeah, and I like the heavy one with like the little hook that used to move around logs, and yeah, I walk. I walk to the front door.
You go down, you can see down the stairs where the front door is. You see this man. He's there, standing in the doorway. He's walked in. He says, I told you I didn't need an invitation. I technically still live here.
Aurelius.
No.
Shit. What's going on?
I was looking for Aurelius. Found you. Well,
yes.
I tracked you by my, all the way from Limehouse. Put two and two together. You found Aurelius's journal.
Yes, and I wrote and I tried to deceive you, and for that I apologize.
Yes, well, you look like you're the help, so why don't you get me a drink?
No. You need to leave. You are not a hunter of Hargrave House.
We can do this all night. I'm going to go into my favorite sitting room now, and I would like for you to bring me a drink. Let's not be difficult about it. And he walks off.
Yeah, I brain him with a fireplace poker.
Oh, you're going down there. Well, I was imagining you guys were talking kind of like at a distance.
Oh, got it.
You go down there, absolutely. Yeah. Let's cut over to our last stop at Brown's Hotel, Mads. Teddy returns to his tiny, dingy flat in East London. What do we see in Teddy's apartment that shows how he tries to incorporate bits of glamour into his dull gray life?
I think that he has like old tickets that people might have thrown into the rubbish bin, and some maybe like a snip of the most glamorous of that actress's wigs. And then like with the young men, I mean, like he has like some kind of scented oil that maybe they had used like into the bath or even after the bath. And he just has like these little touches that he's kind of tried to brighten up his little flat. And then he will also take out like a rose or two, and then he will bring them all together and then start to sing like a broken song of the city.
Huh. I'm going to actually start with Dr. Pendleton this time. Dr. Pendleton, you just got a miss, right?
Yeah.
The police constable says, I hate to cut your evening short, madam, but I'm afraid you're going to have to come with me. And he says, I've actually been gotten in pretty good with a fellow from Scotland Yard. Calls himself Pettigrew. Kind of a nebbish, annoying man, if I'm being perfectly honest, but he could be my ticket to bigger things. You might be my ticket to bigger things, whatever you and your manservant are doing here in Limehouse. Come along.
I'm going to spend a mask so that doesn't happen. I don't want to have to deal with Pettigrew. Definitely don't.
I'm going to give you being watched as a condition, but you will otherwise be able to talk your way out of it.
I think I basically just tell him, now you listen here, Constable. I have business, and I have business here, and it's very important business. Now, if you're going to stop me, I hope you shall be comfortable enough going up to your sergeant or whatever it is, the person in charge of you, because when I have my say at your sergeant to your deputy or whoever it is going to be that's in charge, you will, well, let's just say you will see all of your little colleagues rising up, going interesting places, and you will be stuck here in the Limehouse district for as long as you can possibly remember, digging up bodies from the fish barrels and All
He
the
says,
other.
all right. But I've got my eye on you.
But I've got mine on you.
And he sort of swings his little billy club and walks down the way, whistling a jaunty tune. Let's cut over to Dryden. Dryden, when you go into the lounge thinking you're going to brain this alleged vampire, you find no one there. You see an impression in a seat, as if someone is sitting there or was sitting there, but you see no one. And you hear a voice. In the room. Now about that drink. We just cut there. And finally, Ms. Byrne.
Mask, please.
I get to narrate first.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
You feel a spatter on your face. Spatter. As blood dribbles from the policeman's stomach. You see the stomach tearing open. You see two hands forcing the flesh open as if from the inside. This time you see a face peering out of the man's belly. It is a child's face, bearing fangs. It is almost certainly the Limehouse Lurker. The blood and the viscera spatter down atop you along the sidewalk. And you can feel the entities nibbling at the edges, coaxing you, beckoning you. The lurker says, I only like the blood. You can have the meaty bits. But it sounds like you're marking the Janus mask.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, just narrate how you dispense with this situation. How do you get the cop to safety?
Yeah, I think the quick and dirty ritual, appeals to one of the lesser entities that's hovering around, and they'll actually acquiesce and drink of my blood as the blood clears from the palm, and then this entity will rise and actually wrap itself around the constable, protecting it from further, tearing or anything, and then gently pull it down to the ground. And then I guess just see it dissipate. And Helena is there just looking up into the darkness, and then looking down at the constable.
I love it. That concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. In the interest of time, we're going to save any Janus mess that's open for next time. So for now, though, we'll just do the basic kind of dawn stuff here. And we'll start by answering our dawn questions. Everyone has, did the hunters answer a capital Q question? Yes, you did. So everyone gets to mark that one. You did not resolve a threat, though, but you might have gotten an echo in the night. Helena, did you get an echo in the night?
Yes, I mean, I mentioned the whole you can travel elsewhere, and then have a brand new life, and that was from part of the unseen.
Yeah, I love all that. What about you, Dr. Pendleton?
Yeah, threatening the young officer with never going to be able to get out of the Limehouse. Never going to see anything.
The thematic stuff with Teddy. Yeah, that's good. Dryden, did you get an echo in the night? Oh, you're muted.
What exactly is an echo in the night?
Oh, it's did you just have some kind of thematic or visual connection between the Browns Hotel and the Hunter scene, or vice versa? Did you feel anything like that in your...
I don't know.
I would say the curtain thing, maybe. I did the curtain thing, but
yeah. But there is something about like just the way Brown like walks into places that he's not welcome or he's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Thematically, that feels really good. Yeah, I
Thematically, I
like
feel
that.
like- Cool.
Yeah, I'm into it. Yeah, you can mark that
Cool.
one.
Awesome.
Now let's take a look at your Dawn questions. First session, you can pick them to get the XP if you wish, or just however you want to do it. But Helena, did you perform a ritual? Yes, you did. Mark an XP.
Yep.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with the Dark Entity? Yes, you did.
Yes.
Mark an XP. Dr. Pendleton, did you put your hands in a pile of guts and love every moment of it? Yes, you did. If eyes count as guts. Did you show physical affection toward the child while someone else was looking?
Not towards the child,
That-
not when anyone else is
yeah,
looking,
that didn't
just towards the
happen.
dead body.
Dryden, you have to pick your questions. You can go ahead and pick ones that work, though, if you want.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I did any of these things today.
Okay. Let's take a look
Engage
at them.
in petty reprisal of someone who angered your employer? No, I don't think so.
No, I would give you credit for employer got credit for your triumph since you actively did not go to the Limehouse in the beginning. You were like,
Okay.
you were trying to make an excuse for how you were investigating by saying you were like, like you kind of like justified your cleaning of the scarf and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say that one for sure.
Good.
Good. Okay, great. And let's keep going. We don't have any playbook moves, and we're going to save Janus Mask for next time. And so that is our session. If we have a couple minutes, I'd love to just a quick stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, and wishes are things that you hope to see next time we play. Are we okay, Taylor, on if we go a couple minutes to that? Okay, good, awesome. It's more for me more than anything, but I just always like to hear how everybody felt about it too. Who wants to start?
I can start. I have stars for my fellow players. I really like Helena. The way that you lean into the vessel's sort of real spookiness. It feels witchy already, and it's not like you had to really work at being witchy, you know. And I think that's walking into a vessel character like that and having that witchiness right off the bat is just wonderful because it's such a fun character, and you're doing a wonderful job. Judd, I would not have believed that this is your first The Between game. You're playing the factotum just so amazingly. I was joking in our chat about how the factotum is this character that while everybody else is messing around, the factotum's getting shit done, and you really are. The way you're dealing with Julius, it's amazing. I just want to watch you constantly and just see what you're doing all the time. So I'm really excited that I got to play this with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, as always, so creepy. Just so wonderfully creepy. I might have nightmares. It'll be great. So thank you so much for running this as always.
Fabulous. Thank you. I'll do my stars. I had a great time. I really love the characters. You know, I'm very familiar with these playbooks, but I always get like an interesting spin on the characters whenever somebody plays one. And so it's really nice. I do love that the vessel hit the ground running with the magic. It feels really good. And I love that. I love when a vessel just dives right into it. I love all the stuff in the Opium Den. The Jenny Johnston's place is one of my favorite places, and I love that you kind of did all of it. Dr. Pendleton, you did all of the basement, you did everything. Man in the Sun Mask, it was all really good stuff. I really am enjoying the sort of like counterpoint between Dryden and the other characters, really all three of you. But in particular, I like how Dryden has this like really grounded feel compared to the others, right? Like Helena is all about like my strange womb dream, and that was really great and awesome, and I loved it. But then we get like just this sort of like, well, I was a sailor, and you know, like there's it's the sort of like it's the interesting juxtaposition between the supernatural and the mundane. It's working really well for me. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you all so much. It was great fun.
I really
Oh man.
go ahead.
No, you go.
Thanks. No, I really enjoyed this session. As always, I enjoy watching everybody interpret their playbooks. And I mean, I love watching Amanda play because it's always great. Chaos agent. And then Judd, I mean, again, I would not have believed this was your first time playing the Between, because you really leaned into the practicality, the solidity, and just like the nature of the servant. I mean, like, you were on it with the shawl, and then, like, just the way you were just like, no, I'm not dealing with your shit. Like, I'm like protecting my employer's territory. The hell with that, I mean, it was brilliant. So thank you so much. And then Jason, I'm always like, again, in admiration of your ability to just, like, change it up and, like, switch your NPCs. It's like everybody's different. And, like, you've got the handle of these characters that you did create, but still, I mean, like, every single time it feels like something new. And then even with Man and Sun Mask, which we're, like, me and Amanda are very familiar with, I mean, he still felt a little different this time. I don't know what it was, but I mean, like, it was just like, it was a different timbre, something. I mean, he still was mysterious. He still was, like, like, otherworldly, but there was something different about him. And then it just made it feel new again, so we didn't feel like, oh, it's Salt Hat. We know this guy. No, it was great. So thank you very much. Woo!
Neat. Yeah. Stars for Mads and Amanda. The role playing was all awesome, but the thing that really, like, made me like, whoa, was the Janus Mask stuff. Like, you both really like brought
really
like
good.
almost like a poetry to it that
Mm.
was really, really, really cool, and like made me kind of took me back, and yeah, it was just really impressive. Jason, I just loved how you started with this kind of long, slow spiral of these three characters all in different places, and then, like, slowly, like, tightened it and tightened it and tightened it until we were going back and forth in these really, like, action. It was really, really good. It was really cool, cool bit of GMing, and the game is just so neat. I think upon reading it, I didn't realize how the Janus Mask stuff is a lot like resistance rolls in Blades in the Dark, but like, instead of just resistance, you have to, like, add to the narrative and say, like, no, that's not happening. Like, they're not a lot. I feel like that's an interesting thing that it's an interesting bit of tech to say, like, no, that's not happening. And, like, the price I pay is that I say something about the character, or I dig into the setting more. It's neat. It's really, really cool. So yeah, it's cool. It was just cool to see the game in action with a bunch of people who played it a bunch and are veterans at it. It was neat.
Awesome. I just have one wish, which is, now that the characters have conditions, I'm very excited to see them have the vulnerable scenes with each other to get those conditions cleared. So we have that to look forward to. I don't know if are there any more stars and wishes? Everybody good?
I have a quick wish. We spent so much of this game apart. I'm really excited to see what happens when all the characters
When they're all
are together.
Yeah. Session 2, they always come together in session 2. Yeah. Well, before I kick it over to Taylor, a little stinger, if you don't mind. It's nighttime. The camera of our TV show, or whatever, looking at London, floats away out into the country, into a grand manor home, which is blazing with illumination from the inside. Candles, gaslight, chandeliers. And we zoom into this enormous, like, study. And the dominant feature in this room is a gigantic map of London. It's so big, you have to have a ladder to reach the top parts of it. This huge map of the city. And there's a wingback chair facing the map. And there's an ancient butler approaching whoever's sitting in that chair. And he has a little drink on a tray. And he serves the drink. And the woman sitting in the chair, the sapphire on her neck glitters in the candlelight, this brilliant blazing jewel. She takes her drink and she approaches the map. And she has little pins in the map, most of them focused on Limehouse. But then she puts one right in the middle of Belgrave Square on Hargrave House. And that concludes our session. Taylor, it is all yours.